Did you realize that nearly 78% of grocery stores across the United States are having a hard time keeping their shelves fully stocked? And no, this isn't just about optional or luxury items. According to supply chain specialists, the situation is far more serious. February 2026 is shaping up to be one of the most challenging months yet when it comes to tracking down 8 everyday essentials. And honestly, item number 6 catches almost everyone off guard. So listen, if you're fed up with pushing your cart through half-empty aisles and heading home without completing your grocery list, this is exactly the kind of video you've been looking for. I'm going to break down what products are quietly disappearing from stores and, more importantly, what you can do right now to make sure your household doesn't feel the impact. But before we dive in, take a second to hit that subscribe button. Believe it or not, only about 1 out of every 3 grocery shoppers is aware of these insider strategies. And I want to make sure you're prepared, informed, and not caught by surprise. Number 8 could seriously put a damper on your next celebration. Wine and spirits are quietly disappearing from store shelves, and it's not just that your go-to label is hard to find. Here's the surprising twist. The issue has very little to do with the alcohol itself. The real bottleneck is a global glass shortage that's slowing bottle production to a near standstill. Recent industry data shows glass manufacturers are running at only about 60% capacity, and there's a clear reason why. Soaring energy prices, combined with shortages in key raw materials, have forced major European glass producers to shut down nearly half of their furnaces. Now think about it for a second. That anniversary dinner, the weekend hangout with friends, or a milestone birthday celebration, no one wants to walk in empty-handed. Meanwhile, restaurant owners are feeling the squeeze too, with many reporting they're operating with just 40% of their normal wine inventory, leaving once full wine lists looking pretty bare. But here's the upside. I've got insider solutions that genuinely help. First, premium boxed wines are having a real comeback. And yes, this is serious talk. The quality has improved dramatically, and some highly rated vineyards are now choosing boxes over bottles. Second, take a look at your local breweries and wineries. Many of them reuse bottles, and, as a result, often have more reliable stock than big retailers. And here's a tip most shoppers completely overlook. Canned wines and ready-to-drink cocktails are booming. Their quality now rivals traditional bottled options. Quick fact. Sales of canned wine jumped 200% over the past year, and experts say they actually stay fresher longer than wine in glass bottles. Still, if you think the wine situation is bad, just wait until you see what's happening with the next item. Number 7. Okay, let's talk about eggs, because this one catches a lot of people off guard. And no, this isn't your run-of-the-mill shortage story. Remember when we all complained about paying $3 for a dozen last year? Yeah? Brace yourself, because what's happening now is on a whole different level. Recent market numbers show that in some areas, egg prices have climbed to nearly twice that. And here's the part that really stings. Some grocery stores are now limiting how many cartons you're allowed to buy. But there's a lot the mainstream coverage isn't explaining, and it all comes down to a perfect storm hitting poultry farms at once. First up, those record-breaking heat waves in the Midwest. They've been absolutely brutal. We're talking temperatures so extreme that even advanced cooling systems can't keep barns safe. And here's why that matters. About 40% of the nation's egg-laying hens are raised in that region. I actually spoke with a farmer in Iowa last week who said they're losing more hens to heat stress than they ever have before. Now take a deep breath because it gets worse. A new, highly aggressive strain of bird flu is spreading, and farmers say it's unlike anything they've dealt with in the past. While they're battling that crisis, feed prices have exploded, up around 45% in just a few months. The result? Many farms have been forced to shrink their flocks by nearly a third, which means millions fewer eggs reaching store shelves every single day. And I know exactly what you're thinking. You need your eggs. Whether you're prepping healthy breakfast burritos, baking your kid's birthday cake, or throwing together a quick omelet after work, this shortage hits close to home. But don't worry, because I've got some practical, game-changing solutions most people never hear about. Let me start with one that surprises almost everyone. You can freeze eggs. No joke. Here's the method I use myself. Crack them into an ice cube tray, add a tiny pinch of salt to each section. Seriously, don't skip that. Then freeze them. They'll keep for up to 6 months. I did this last month and used them for baking just yesterday, and honestly, I couldn't tell the difference. Now let's talk alternatives. Those plant-based egg products you've been side-eyeing? The newer versions are way better than you'd expect. I was completely skeptical too, until I tried Just Egg in my morning scramble. Total game changer. And here's my favorite budget-friendly baking hack. Mashed banana or ground flaxseed mixed with water works beautifully in most recipes. True story. I once won a baking contest using banana instead of eggs in a chocolate cake. No one even noticed. But here's the golden tip most people overlook. Start building relationships with local farmers. While big box stores are slapping up limited supply signs, smaller farms are often still producing steadily. I found an incredible family-run farm at my local farmer's market just 20 minutes from my house. Their eggs are cheaper than store-bought, taste amazing, and you're supporting local businesses at the same time. Total win-win. Drop a comment below if you've tried any of these alternatives already. I'd genuinely love to hear what worked for you. Number 6. Coffee beans. Go ahead and look at that empty mug because this next shortage could seriously mess with your morning routine. And I'm not just talking about fancy espresso or boutique roasts. I mean the everyday coffee that gets you through back-to-back Zoom calls, school drop-offs, and whatever chaos the day throws at you. Here's what's really going on behind the scenes in the coffee world. And trust me, it's a much bigger problem than a case of Monday morning grumpiness. Brazil and Vietnam, which together produce about 65% of the world's coffee supply, are dealing with their worst drought in half a century. Satellite data shows coffee-growing regions shrinking by an alarming 23% since late 2024. And that's just the beginning. These extreme temperature spikes aren't just uncomfortable for farmers. They're forcing them to abandon traditional growing areas altogether. Many are relocating crops to higher elevations just to keep plants alive, and that shift means even less coffee is making its way from farms to your kitchen counter. And if you've ever heard older relatives talk about coffee costing $1 a pound, those stories might as well be ancient history. Prices have jumped by as much as 45% in some stores, and big-name chains aren't stopping there. Some are quietly limiting how many bags customers can buy. Those specialty single-origin beans you love, they're starting to feel about as rare as a calm, quiet morning with kids. Here's the part that really hits hard. Scientists say this may not be temporary. Climate experts are warning that coffee-growing regions could shrink by up to 50% by 2030. That's why major coffee companies are pouring billions into developing heat-resistant coffee plants. But those solutions are still years away from showing up on store shelves. Now, don't panic and start hoarding coffee just yet. I've dug into this and found some smart, practical strategies people are already using. First tip, when you see your favorite beans, grab an extra bag. Stored in an airtight container at room temperature, coffee can stay fresh for up to 6 months. Pro tip, skip the freezer unless you want your morning brew tasting suspiciously like last month's frozen pizza. Here's another insider move most people overlook. Local roasters are becoming the real MVPs of the coffee world. Many are working directly with smaller farms in emerging regions like Myanmar, Laos, and parts of India, where coffee production is still expanding. These farms tend to adapt more quickly to climate shifts and often use more sustainable growing practices, which helps keep supply moving. And if things get really tight, let me share my favorite coffee stretching trick: Japanese-style cold brew. It uses about 30% fewer beans while delivering the same caffeine boost, and it's smoother on your stomach too. Total win-win. Some coffee lovers are also experimenting with alternatives like yerba mate or mushroom-based coffee, both of which are gaining popularity and are often easier to find right now. Number 5. Butter. Alright, let's talk about something that's quietly causing chaos in kitchens nationwide. What people are now calling the Great Butter Crisis of 2026. If you've stood in front of half-empty dairy cases or felt personally attacked by butter prices lately, trust me, you're definitely not alone. Let me pull back the curtain on what's actually happening, because this situation is wilder than it looks. Picture this. Just 14 months ago, a basic stick of butter was sitting comfortably around $3 to $3.99. Fast forward to today, and prices have climbed to levels that would make your grandmother clutch her pearls. Industry numbers show a jaw-dropping 43% price increase since late 2024. And some stores are so short on supply, they're treating butter like a luxury item, limiting shoppers to 2 packs per visit. Yep, just 2. Now here's where things really start to unravel. The world's dairy heavyweights, New Zealand and Ireland, are dealing with a perfect storm. Extreme weather has slashed butter production by about 22%. Cows are producing noticeably less milk, and feed costs have skyrocketed through the roof. At the same time, European markets that usually export butter are hoarding their supply, holding onto it like it's the final season of their favorite Netflix series. But here's something most headlines are skipping over. Small local dairy farms are stepping up in a huge way. Many are reporting up to a 300% increase in direct-to-consumer sales, and some savvy farmers are even rolling out butter subscriptions. Yes, that's real, and honestly, kind of genius. Now I know what you're thinking. What about my morning toast, my holiday baking, my everything? Take a breath, because there are some surprisingly effective workarounds people are already using. First tip, When you do find butter, make it count. Buy the limit and freeze it. Most people don't realize this, but butter can last up to 6 months in the freezer if it's wrapped properly in aluminum foil and sealed inside a freezer bag. And here's where things get really interesting. Professional bakers have been experimenting like mad and stumbled onto some game-changing alternatives. Ready for this? Mixing equal parts Greek yogurt and olive oil works incredibly well for baking. Some are calling it the 2026 hack because it actually makes cakes more moist than butter ever did. Mind blown, right? Even better, it reduces saturated fat by about 60%. For everyday cooking and spreading, European-style cultured butter spreads are emerging as the unexpected MVP. They're more flavor-dense, which means you use around 40% less for the same taste. Plus, they're soft straight out of the fridge, no more shredded toast. Some brands are even boosting these spreads with extra vitamins D and E, making them nutritionally stronger than traditional butter. Here's a stat that really seals the deal. Restaurants that switched to these alternatives reported a 25% drop in baking costs, and in blind taste tests, 67% of people couldn't tell the difference between baked goods made with traditional butter and the newer substitutes. That's what I call a win-win. And the cherry on top? All these adjustments are pushing the dairy industry toward more sustainable practices. Some experts are even calling this shortage a blessing in disguise, proof that pressure can spark serious innovation. Who would have thought a butter shortage could lead to this much creativity? Number 4. Rice. All right, everyone, let's talk about something that's giving grocery stores serious trouble right now, and that's rice. And before you brush it off thinking, it's just rice, trust me. This situation is far bigger and more complicated than it looks on the surface. Here's what's actually unfolding in 2026. India, which has long been the heavyweight champion of global rice exports, supplying close to 40% of the world's traded rice, has slammed the brakes on exports. Their message is simple. Our people come first. And honestly, with extreme weather-damaging crops and domestic prices climbing fast, it's hard to fault them for prioritizing their own population. But here's where things really escalate. This isn't limited to specialty rice like basmati that you save for special meals. We're talking about everyday staples, plain white rice, brown rice, and even those convenient microwave-ready packets people rely on for quick lunches. And just when you think other countries might fill the gap, there's more trouble. Thailand and Vietnam, usually our backup suppliers, are struggling too. El Niño weather patterns have seriously disrupted their harvests, and prices there have surged by around 40% in just a few months. Rice that once cost about $15 for a large bag is now hitting $25 or more, and those handy 5-pound bags? Finding them consistently on shelves has become a real challenge. So why does this matter to you beyond the price tag? Because rice touches everything, from your favorite Chinese takeout spots to the meal prep containers you line up in your fridge every week. And if you're hoping this is just a short-term hiccup, experts from the Global Rice Research Institute are warning that these shortages could last much longer than most people expect. Now, I wouldn't drop all that on you without offering some genuinely solid alternatives. Let me share a few swaps my own family has actually embraced. First up, quinoa. I know it sounds a little fancy, but hear me out. It packs more protein than rice, cooks in about 15 minutes, faster than most rice, and it's becoming more affordable as demand grows. Pro tip: rinse it really well before cooking, and you'll avoid that bitter flavor people complain about. Then there's cauliflower rice, and before you roll your eyes, the frozen versions have improved a lot lately. Major brands finally figured out how to make it taste decent. Plus, it's an easy way to sneak extra vegetables into meals. My kids don't even notice when I mix it half and half with regular rice. Here's my personal favorite hack: barley. I've started using it for meal prep because it's cheaper, incredibly filling, and actually holds up better in the fridge than rice. It also has this subtle, nutty flavor that makes even simple dishes feel a little gourmet. One more thing, when you do spot rice at a reasonable price, the smart move is to grab an extra bag or two. But please don't go full hoarding mode. We all remember 2020, and nobody wants a repeat of that. Let's keep it reasonable. We're all navigating this together. Quick shopping tips before we move on. Check smaller Asian markets, since they often have better stock than big chains. Turn on alerts in your grocery store's app so you know when items come back in. And consider joining local bulk buying groups on social media. Sometimes you can split those massive restaurant supply bags with neighbors. Number 3. Baby formula. Now let's talk about something that's genuinely keeping parents awake at night. And no, I don't just mean newborn sleep schedules. Baby formula is becoming alarmingly hard to find, and this is far more serious than a routine supply hiccup. Just last week I spoke with Sarah, a first-time mom in Ohio, who drove to 6 different stores trying to find formula for her 3-month-old. She barely came up empty-handed, and unfortunately, her experience is becoming the norm rather than the exception. Here's what's really going on. The FDA recently rolled out stricter quality control measures, and while safer formula is absolutely what we want, this is about our babies after all, it's created a perfect storm. Those new standards hit three major manufacturers especially hard, and the ripple effect has been massive. Right now, store shelves are carrying about 43% less formula than usual, and specialty options, like sensitive stomach or hypoallergenic formulas, are almost impossible to track down. Finding them feels like striking gold. But here's something most parents haven't heard. That same FDA report revealed that smaller formula manufacturers are ramping up production to fill the gap. The problem? Many families don't recognize these brands. Some of them have been producing formula safely for decades, but never had the shelf space to compete with the big names. Until now. So let me walk you through some solutions that are actually working in real life. First, and this part is critical, call your pediatrician's office. Many clinics quietly keep emergency formula supplies on hand. They're not advertising it, but they often have samples available and can guide you toward trusted sources. Think of it as a low-key formula lifeline. Here's my favorite insider tip, and it's blowing up parent forums right now: local Facebook formula finding groups. These communities are becoming the unsung heroes of 2026. It's like having an entire team of parents checking every store in your area. Just yesterday, I saw a post where a mom in Texas found extra formula and helped three other families get what they needed. That kind of support is everything right now. Another option most people overlook? Small, locally owned pharmacies. Unlike big chains, these stores often have special ordering access through distributors. I'm talking about those family-run pharmacies you pass without thinking twice. Walk in, ask questions, and don't be surprised if they end up being your secret weapon in this formula search. Quick pro tip: sign up for in-stock alerts on multiple retailer websites. But here's the trick: create a separate email account just for alerts. Your main inbox will stay sane, and you won't miss time-sensitive notifications. Before we move on to the next shortage, tap that like button if any of this was helpful. We've still got more items to cover, and trust me, the next one is hitting nearly every household across the country. Number 2. Tomato products. Let's talk about something that's suddenly causing real frustration in kitchens everywhere: tomatoes in all their forms. You know that moment when you're craving spaghetti and meatballs, reach for your trusted jar of marinara, and nothing but empty shelf space? You're definitely not the only one, and there's a much bigger story behind it. Here's the hard truth. California's Central Valley, which supplies about 95% of the country's processed tomatoes, is dealing with the worst drought in recorded history. Farms that have grown tomatoes for generations are being forced to leave fields unplanted because there simply isn't enough water. And this isn't just a US issue. Italy, normally our backup hero with high-quality tomato imports, lost around 40% of its tomato crop due to extreme weather. This isn't just statistics. It's families struggling to keep food traditions alive, like those classic Sunday dinners that rely on tomatoes. But the ripple effects don't stop there. This shortage is quietly reshaping the entire food industry. Fast food chains are reformulating sauces behind the scenes. Big soup companies are rewriting recipes. Even frozen pizza brands are feeling the pressure. When tomato products do show up, prices have jumped by as much as 70%, and that's if you can find them at all. Now here's where things get practical, because I don't believe in just delivering bad news. Let me share some solutions that genuinely work. First tip: when you spot good fresh tomatoes, grab them. Here's a trick most people don't use. You can make your own sauce and freeze it in ice cube trays. When you need it, just pop out a few cubes and you've got instant homemade sauce with zero waste. Now for my favorite hack, and this one shocked even my Italian grandmother. Blend red bell peppers with carrots to create a sauce base. The natural sweetness of the carrots mimics tomatoes incredibly well, and the peppers add depth and color. I was skeptical too, but once you try it, you'll get why this is a game changer. Here's another angle most shoppers miss: Asian grocery stores. Many of them are connected to different supply chains and still have solid tomato product stock. Plus, they carry powerful alternatives like gochujang, or miso paste, which can deliver that same rich umami punch you're craving in sauces and stews. Quick pro tip before we move on: start a small container garden. Even one tomato plant on a balcony or patio can produce up to 30 pounds of tomatoes in a season. That's a lot of sauce. And fair warning, once you taste homegrown tomatoes, store-bought ones will feel painfully bland by comparison. This tomato shortage isn't just about missing pasta night. It's a wake-up call about how fragile our food system can be. But honestly, some of the best kitchen creativity comes from moments like this. And who knows, Your next favorite recipe might be born out of this challenge. Number 1. Fresh berries. Let's talk about something that's seriously turning everyday grocery trips upside down right now. Fresh berries. And trust me, this isn't your normal seasonal dip. What's happening in stores lately is unlike anything we've seen before. Here's what's going on. California and Florida, our two biggest berry-growing powerhouses, are getting hit with some truly chaotic weather. We're talking frost showing up when it absolutely shouldn't, followed by heat waves so intense they're practically cooking berries right on the vine. Just last month alone, farmers in California's Central Valley lost more than 40% of their strawberry crop due to sudden weather swings. That's millions of berries that will never make it into your yogurt bowls, smoothies, or lunchboxes. But weather is only part of the problem. Transportation has become a nightmare. Shipping costs have jumped around 45% since late 2024, and small farmers are taking the hardest hit. In some cases, they're leaving berries in the fields because it actually costs more to ship them than they'd earn selling them. Wild, right? The math just doesn't work anymore when transportation wipes out all the profit. Now, before you start worrying about berry-loving kids or losing your favorite recipes, take a breath. I've got some genuinely smart workarounds that are already helping thousands of families. First tip, make the farmer's market your new best friend. Here's an insider move. Show up during the first hour after opening. That's when the berries are at their freshest, and prices are often about 30% lower than supermarkets because there's no middleman involved. And here's my favorite solution, one that's really having a moment. Frozen berries. And no, I'm not talking about those sad, freezer-burned bags we all remember from childhood. Modern flash freezing happens within hours of harvest, sometimes right on the farm. The best part? These berries often retain more nutrients than fresh berries that spend days traveling to your local store. Now let's talk about something genuinely exciting. Indoor berry growing systems are becoming mainstream, and they're no longer just for hardcore gardeners. These smart countertop gardens let you grow strawberries indoors all year long. One system I've seen can produce around 2 pounds of strawberries every month, which is more than enough to keep your smoothie routine alive and thriving. Quick budget-friendly tip. When you do find fresh berries at a good price, buy a little extra and freeze them yourself. Lay them out in a single layer on a baking sheet, freeze until solid, then transfer them to freezer bags. Stored this way, they'll last up to 6 months without clumping together. And here's something most shoppers don't realize. Different berries have very different shelf lives. Blackberries usually last only 3 to 4 days, while blueberries can stay fresh for up to 10 days if stored properly. Always check the bottom of the container for crushed berries, because one squished berry can start a chain reaction of spoilage. I know berry shortages sound intimidating, but with these strategies, you're more than covered. Whether it's shopping early at farmers markets, mastering frozen berries, or growing your own indoors, you've got options. And remember, these challenges won't last forever. Farmers are already adapting with new growing techniques and developing climate-resistant berry varieties, which is actually pretty encouraging news. Before you rush out to check your local stores, let's do a quick reality check. Yes, these shortages feel stressful, but we've got solid alternatives for everything. From butter swaps and rice substitutes to frozen berries and coffee alternatives, your kitchen isn't going dry anytime soon. Here's the silver lining. Moments like this are pushing all of us to get more creative and resourceful. Companies are innovating, local producers are stepping up, and communities are sharing tips and resources like never before. Honestly, the future of our food system is looking more interesting and more resilient than you might expect. Now I'm curious, what items are you struggling to find in your local stores? Drop a comment below and let's help each other out with some creative solutions. And if this video helped you feel more prepared, hit that like button and subscribe for weekly updates on shopping smarter in 2026. Trust me, you won't want to miss next week's breakdown on the surprising foods making a comeback.